Tell me about this, because as I understand it, at the kids' school, they had a hamburger truck. Who doesn't love hamburgers? But it does seem a little bit Hansel and Gretel kind of like. You have the hamburger truck there, the kids want a hamburger. It's really, really manipulative to do this to kids, especially when the school realizes that not all parents, for different reasons, some health, some other religious exemptions, may not be on board with this. Tell us what happened in your situation.
Hi, Dana. Yes, absolutely. I felt completely blindsided because, by the way, I have told the school, the principal, the staff, by email and in person. I've told them several times that I don't wish to participate. I want them to leave my kids alone. I don't want them to pass any material regarding this. We are opting out. And they unfortunately felt the pressure by the school and the bullying and the bribing, and were forced to, make bad choices.
Oh, and from what I understand, kids had been doing remote learning or online learning for a year and a half before then.
Yes, it was most of 2020. Yes, and that was one of the reasons they felt like their life is going to end and they're going to be kicked off the campus, forced into a lockdown learning, which is on their computer, not even with a teacher, just literally on their own.
Oh, wow. Then not even in any guided learning. As I understand it, you have a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old. That age to be going through this and to be dealing with learning at home, that is such a crucial time of development for kids, socially, academically, and they're kind of navigating this all on their own. So you can really understand, for people who are looking outside into your situation, they can really see like how easy it is to, yeah, of course I'll take a burger. They're probably more interested in not having to do online learning, and they want to get back to living life normally.
Definitely. They mostly didn't want to be, stuck at home again, to not socialize with their friends. This is their life. They're 12 and 13. They want to socialize, go to school and hang out with their friends. And
Yeah.
again, unfortunately, they literally felt like they had no choice. They told me so. That's why they did it, because depression, because, not being
Oh.
around their friends, and then also the peer
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah, the peer pressure, and that's the other thing. It seems like the peer pressure is being encouraged. We've been reading about some school districts where the classroom peer pressure is almost sort of encouraged by school districts as a awareness campaign, I guess, for the vaccine. Did they? So your children, they came and just told you, just flat out, Mom, this is what happened at school. There was a burger truck, and we decided to do this because apparently there was a consent form involved. Tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, they didn't tell me. It kind of, yeah, so it was they actually forged the signature of my ex-husband on the consent form, which didn't even, make its way to me. Um,
Ooh.
they, they, they then submitted it in classroom, and somehow then showed it to the clinic at the schoolyard before they got the burger, and nobody double checked. I even told the principal, I emailed him right after when I found out, asking for the copies, and he didn't even have them. He didn't even have copies of the consent forms. Nobody double checked signature. It was mind blowing. Definitely, horrifying that my kids are supposed to be safe, or at least not harmed while in their care, and here they are getting,
Yeah.
a cat without a parental consent.
And hopefully there were no any kind of reactions or anything that we sometimes read about with, certain, and they write about them being rare, but hopefully there wasn't anything like that with the case of your children.
There wasn't, thankfully. I mean, that was, one of my major concerns why I didn't want to do it, besides the fact that that I just there's not enough
Yeah.
data yet. It's still under the emergency use. I mean, my kids, I have all the other vaccines when they were little. It's not that I'm anti. It's really just this specific one, and how they're going about it, and how they're forcing people, and especially little kids, bullying. And to your point before, where every morning, in the morning announcements, they would just keep repeating this to the children. You have to do this, or you will be forced into online learning. So every morning, they had different children have this speech on a speakerphone to, the same message every morning.
Wow. Wow. And I can imagine, Jana, I can imagine too that it's so frustrating when if you raise a question up about just this one specific virus related vaccine, because we're not anti-vax, like you just said, you're not anti-vax, your kids have their other vaccines, my kids have their other ones, I've had them, you've had them, we're not anti-vax. There are a lot of questions related to this specific vaccine because there's no long-term data. We're simply asking questions in the interest of science, our own health, because that's how much we value it. What does it feel like to you when you're labeled as being something that you're not simply because you have a question about it?
I mean, it's people like to label people, especially nowadays, whatever it is. I don't personally care just because I know that's not what I am. I am, like I said, it's specifically this one that has been an issue because it's came about so fast. There really, like you said, there's no long-term data on it. And, we don't know enough, and we know enough of injuries that occurred in young kids.
Well, I'm glad that your kids are okay, and hopefully it's everything is sorted out now. But that is, I have to say, and I probably should, the ingenuity they went to forge a signature on a consent form to get a burger. I mean, they're thinking outside the box a little bit. So I just had to point that out. Jana Townsley, thank you so much for joining us.
Now, but it was quite mind
Oh, at the time you weren't laughing.
No, I wasn't laughing. But I mean, they came together, they made a plan. And, unfortunately, again, I blame the school. I blame the neglect of them and forcing my kids, into bad behavior. Unfortunately, they're good kids. Otherwise, they don't really lie to me.